some people were getting Noah Syndergaard back, some people were getting Carson Fulmer back, some people weren't. With regard to that, yes, those guys probably were they were getting whatever mail they was off the top, and they were signing it, and it probably just a player in spring training or during the regular season does not sit around and sign all day like a retired player in theory can do. A major league player, even in theory, cannot do it. I hear all these people saying, well, if I was playing, I would send as soon as possible. Well, try sending between 300 and 400 autograph requests as soon as possible. Mull that in your mind, and think that over, because that's actually what some people apparently. I remember Clayton Kershaw snapped a photo of his mail. I think, who was it? It was Philip Hughes a couple of years ago when he was still with the Yankees. He snapped a photo of his mail, which, by the way, he signed. But it was just hundreds and hundreds of pieces of mail. So this is not a guy who played as a utility outfielder in the late 70s. This is somebody who is an active ball player, who is on national TV a couple of times a year, who is a star, who is on ESPN and a bunch of other national networks, and who gets a ton of airtime. They get a ton of mail. And you've got to understand that. With regard to a person being hit or miss, or return time, or even a person just shutting down, because sometimes they just don't have the time for it. There were guys who did not sign during their careers because they didn't have the time for it, but now they do sign. For example, when he was at the height of his stardom, I don't think Will Clark signed. Or if he did, he was very, very tough. Now, all you need to do is send one card to the Giants, you'll get him back. And another guy like that would be, actually, there were guys that used ghost signers back in the 70s and the 80s in the clubhouse. I'm not going to guess on who, but I've seen some of the clubhouse signatures, and I've seen some of the real signatures from the 60s, and Roberto Clemente employed a ghost signer, Thurman Munson employed a ghost signer, Willie Mays employed a ghost signer. So these guys were, that were getting a ton of mail, they weren't even signing it, they were just having somebody else sign it. Ted Williams, by the way, Ted Williams is a good example of a guy who, at first, he would just have, he wouldn't sign it. He'd have a teammate. In the late 50s, it was Willard Nixon. Before that, I'm not really sure who it was. He wouldn't sign it. Then after he retired, he got a different attitude. He started signing it. He charged $5 for it, but hey, he still signed. So you gotta understand that a current player is always going to get the most attention with regard to spring training or the regular season. And that a guy like Adrian Beltre is signing it all is pretty good. So, if you're complaining about, well, he took 3 months to get back to me, don't complain. You got it in the end, please. And with regard to players where you have, just because they have a junk waxer, a baseball card, and you have 10 of that junk waxer, a baseball card, sending 5 is not to the person is not charitable. It just takes up time. Just send them a couple of cards, 2, 3, 4 at the most. They can do that. Otherwise, forget it. I can understand. I actually have. I know that there are arrangements where you send a letter of request specifically asking a person, can you sign these specific baseball cards for me because of reasons X, Y, Z. I actually know I know a few people like that who will take notes like that, and they'll come back and they'll either say yes or no. And there was one. In fact, there was one ball player who was a pitcher in the early '60s. I won't name him, who actually signed 14 cards for me because he insisted that I send him every card I have. And I said, "Are you sure you want to do this? I have 14 cards of you." He said, "Yeah, please do it." All right. Now I know that guy incredibly well. I'm not going to say who it is either because I don't want some yahoo pulling the same stunt and sending him 14 cards. But he was happy. It went well, but it was only because he insisted that I do it. And because I'm his friend. So that is, that was a special occasion. With regard to somebody where you don't know them and they're not a friend of yours, the burden of proof is on you. You don't assume that they're just going to rack for you, okay? And thanks for doing that. Thanks for cutting it back. Thanks for making it good for everybody. So, with that out of the way, and I realized I kind of ranted there at the end, but I thought I kind of had to get it off my chest. This is John William Greenbaum signing off, telling you to sit back, relax, and have fun graphing.